Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plan, your high school football live show, talking high school football here in the Nashville area. Joined today by Ravenwood coach Matt Daniels. Matt, welcome to the show first.
Thank you. It's good to be back on.
And it's great to see that your hair is back to normal. Last time I saw you on the show, it was a different color. It's good to see everything back to normal. But Coach, you made the big announcement after your game Saturday afternoon. Ravenwood gets a shot at the preseason #1 team in the country, IMG Academy out of Florida. That game will be September 25th at Ravenwood. Just first, what was it about that game? How did that game come about?
Well, it started with just kind of exploring, what our schedule was going to look like, dating back to, midsummer. Are we going to play a full season? What week are we going to start with? Are we going to have to reschedule? And then, with everything that's been happening with Metro, the uncertainty of our Cane Ridge game later in the year got us kind of, contingency planning and exploring, options to make sure that we get in as many games as we can for our kids. And, I mentioned it to you on Saturday. Coach Woods, Eddie, and I have a pretty good relationship over the last few years. We've established kind of a rivalry, in our area in terms of seeing them a bunch in the playoffs. And now we've been regular season the last couple of years. So, I reached out to Eddie and just said, what are you thinking? What's going on? What are you hearing? And if, push comes to shove, how do you feel about us potentially, canceling that game for us to try to make sure that we're getting as many games as possible. And he was, very honest about it. Like, obviously it's a bad position to be in, but he said, you need to look out for your kids. You need to try to get all those games you can. And, there was no guarantee, regardless of what happens, that we would ever see that game, October 23rd with Cane Ridge. So it made sense for both of us. And although it's tough, to do that to them and to know the reason behind that. At the same time, it's great to make sure we're going to play some games early and try to get as many in as possible.
So, Coach, when you start figuring out, all right, here we're going to try to fill this date. Where in the world do you come up with the idea of IMG Academy? Because that's as big as you get. No one can say you're not. No one can say you're afraid to go after the big boys, because that's as big time as it gets.
Right. And it's obviously something that people who know me and know our program, it's something that we've wanted to do over the last couple of years is, try to expose our players, our kids, our school to, a national stage. And whether that's playing Pulaski Academy or, maybe starting, I played high school ball in Texas, maybe starting a Texas and Tennessee, rivalry game at the beginning of the year every year. That's something I've explored as well. So just trying to provide some experiences for our program that, a lot of these kids, it's their dream to play college football, and most of them will never do that. So this will be an experience that they'll get that, most high school football players will never get in their lives. But, IMG, I got put in touch with their athletic director. He actually reached out to me, again, when we started contingency planning, reached out to a few people that I knew, and he got my number and said, hey, I heard you might need a game in late September. And, I kind of put that on hold, and over the course of a week, it kind of worked out that we were in fact going to need a game, and they were open on 9/25, and within 3 or 4 days of talking, we were able to solidify that. So we had some roots. The athletic director there, he actually spent some time at St. John Preps up in the Baltimore area. I came from the DC area, and we were familiar with some of the football up there, and kind of had that common background. And it was, we hit it off talking about our programs and our goals for our program. So it was a nice kind of matchup from the beginning.
You're watching the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans, talking with Matt Daniels on probably the biggest, the best team that would come into Tennessee. I know there's a team from Deion Sanders' team came up from Texas, but looking at this team, I think there are like 6 4- and 5-star prospects on the class from 2021, and then 2022 has about the same amount, it seems like. So obviously a big time game, and then you look at it, and their quarterback for this year's team is a Michigan commitment to one of the top prospects in the country. You have a Michigan prospect commitment in Junior Colson. That's going to be a special game for some of those guys, and then of course you've got Jake Brennan still as well. There's going to be a lot of talent on the field on that day.
Absolutely, and I think that's part of it. That's part of the allure, for obviously in a normal year, this would be a game that we'd expect to sell probably 10,000 tickets to, and unfortunately, with COVID, that's just not going to be possible. And that's part of it is, as far as Middle Tennessee, I'm a firm believer that Middle Tennessee football and other pockets throughout the state are some of the best in the country, and we're trying as a state to gain a reputation for having really high quality high school football, good coaches, good players, good development. And what better way to kind of put that on display than to say, hey, let's try to match up with these guys. Let's bring in good football from out of the state. In a matter of I guess it's 14 days or 20 days, we'll have Pulaski Academy here and then IMG Academy here as well. So fun for the fans, amazing opportunity for our school and our players. So to me, it's a win-win. It's not a region game, doesn't count against us. We've always been big on scheduling tough games throughout the year so that we're ready for that long playoff run, and that's benefited us the last couple of years.
I've already had 2 people reach out to me on Twitter asking about tickets. I keep telling them, you're not going to know anything until the week of the game. Is that correct? And that, I guess your parents and students will probably get first crack at those. Is that correct? Is that how you guys are doing it this year?
That is correct. Yep. And we've done a really good job. On Saturday, it got a lot of compliments on how everybody was kind of spread out in different areas throughout the stadium. So we will definitely maximize, the amount of people that can be safely in there, standing room and things like that. So I think it'll be a nice big crowd still. But yeah, it's going to be closer to that game. We'll announce how people get access. But we've already had people reach out from different parts of the country who just want to drive down and be there. Yeah.
Coach, no one's ever going to say that you're not afraid to play good teams. I mean, a lot of people will say, well, you're crazy playing IMG, but this is a chance for like you said, the kids that'll never play a college football game. This is going to be their college football game. I mean, it's a good opportunity for them just to see this is what the best looks like. How can you compete against them?
Yeah, and not only that for them personally, but I picture, I've got a daughter now, and she's starting to experience some of these games. And in about 5 years, when she understands it more, I'll start to tell her stories of when I was younger, and I just picture our boys, 15 years down the road, telling stories about high school football, because that's what we do. And when I get together with my friends that I played, at South Lake with down in Texas, we know details of playoff games from 2001. And, I just picture our boys doing that 15 years from now, talking about, remember that stretch we played Pulaski, Brentwood, IMG? That was crazy. We were in the middle of a pandemic, and to me, win, lose, or draw, that's the best part about it. And it'll be a memory that these kids will literally talk about forever.
Coach, you're off to a 2-0 start. Happy with obviously you got to be happy with the start, but just you got to be happy. There are a lot of new faces and new starters on this team, new quarterback, revamped defensive line. I mean, you got to like how you're playing early on.
Definitely. It looks different. I think people who have probably seen our first 2 games, while, the scoreboard has looked nice, we put up some numbers. We've obviously, held opponents to 4.5 points a game. We feel really good about the outcomes. There's still a ton of learning and an uphill battle ahead, but for no scrimmages, no 7-on-7s, extremely happy with the product we've put out there, and even more happy that there's some stuff that we can really clean up and improve upon week to week. So Franklin's coming up, a region game on the road in Region 6A is never an easy task. Coach Webb, just a phenomenal coach. They're going to be ready. They're ready for us every single year, extremely disciplined. So another big challenge for us kind of before that of 3 really tough games.
All right, folks, that has been Matt Daniels, Ravenwood coach, scheduled to play IMG September 25th. IMG based out of Bradenton, Florida. People have kept telling me, they originally were it was a tennis school. And they're a lot more than tennis now. Obviously, some of the best football players in the country are going down there to play each year, and they're coming to Ravenwood to play September 25th. Coach Daniels, thanks so much for joining the Bootleg.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Coming up next, we'll bring in George Robinson of the Leaf Chronicle, where we will be talking Clarksville sports. They get on the field this week, week 3, and we'll also go over the top 10 games of the week with him. We'll be right back with the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Now we're bringing in George Robinson of the Leaf Chronicle, our high school sports writer there in Clarksville. George, welcome to the show. First time in the virtual world.
I know. I was just telling you, technology is a beautiful thing. I don't have to drive all the way down to Nashville to participate.
Well, I know you love that. You know, that drive down 24 has always been wonderful. But big week for Clarksville sports. Football returns to Clarksville Public Schools. This is a big week for y'all.
Finally, it's been a long process, a long 5 months for everybody, really. I was just talking to a lot of the high school football players yesterday a little bit about this, and their expectation of it is, they've tried to keep it all in perspective. So they feel like this is a normal routine, but it really isn't. I mean, considering all of the things that they've had to go through, all these athletes, coaches, administrators, school districts, everybody, it's just an unprecedented time. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's here now. Friday night's here. Clarksville Academy got everything kind of rolling last week here in the city. The private school here in Clarksville, they played Franklin Grace last week, but this will be the first time for the public schools here in town to be able to strap on the pads and play a meaningful game. So, everybody's excited about it.
I think I saw from your Twitter and stuff, you actually had a team that had like an inter-squad. They had some like inter-squad scrimmages where almost like some dress rehearsals type things.
Right. Yeah. Montgomery Central did that. They've done that for the past 2 weeks. I know Clarksville High did it 2 weeks ago. I don't think they did it last week, but Montgomery Central just kind of wanted to kind of build a Friday night game time routine. So they had a sort of like a simulated game. It's basically just a kind of glorified practice where they played on Friday night starting at 7:00. They had referees out there. They had chain gang out there. They had the scoreboard up, running plays and, calling, throwing flags. So, they tried to keep the routine as similar as possible for Friday night so that when this Friday happens, they play Portland, comes to town here in Cunningham. They'll play their region opponent in Portland. So when that game happens, Montgomery Central will have already, gotten used to the, to the Friday night schedule.
And I imagine I would also imagine it lets them kind of experiment with their guidelines for game management with COVID and stuff too, of how they're going to do things on the sidelines. Maybe I'm assuming there was some crowd maybe there.
Well, in Montgomery Central, they weren't letting fans in for the scrimmage. All the high schools here in town are going to be operating at about 25% capacity. Most of the schools here, with the exception of maybe Rossview and Clarksville, which are your two largest schools in town, most of the schools are, they can only hold probably about 500 to 600 people on the home side. And probably about 150 on the visitor side. But they're going to be operating about 25% capacity this year with fans. So, I don't expect, there's not going to be a lot of fans there at these games. Obviously, wearing masks, from the coaches are going to be, going to be a priority for a lot of schools. Obviously I'll be out there with a mask and, we're going to social distance as much as we can. So yeah, it's going to look different. And, Montgomery Central got an opportunity to kind of, put a dress rehearsal, so to speak, in the past 2 weeks with that. So, I expect, I still expect, some intensity in these games. It's probably not going to be the prettiest games, this Friday, because everybody's, starting from ground zero here in Clarksville. So, but I do expect, the intensity to ramp up big time.
Were other sports able to play the last 2 weeks, like volleyball or cross country, any of those?
Right.
Just soccer,
Yeah.
or just football?
Soccer began in Clarksville this past Monday. Volleyball's been playing for the past couple of weeks, and obviously golf has been playing since late July. But so everything once football starts Friday, all 5 fall sports will be in full swing.
Joined on the bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans by George Robinson of the Leaf Chronicle in Clarksville. Of course, George will be handling the game. Where are you at Friday night? I think Kenwood. Did I see?
Yeah, Kenwood at Northeast. That's going to be probably the biggest game in the city. To start the season. Both teams are pretty equally matched. They both have a ton of athletic talent, and they both feature 2 pretty good quarterbacks. Northeast has got a sophomore by the name of Jaden Puig, who came in about 4 games into the season last year and still threw for about 1,400 yards. And then Kenwood has probably, what I would consider sort of the Lamar Jackson of Clarksville. He's got he's probably the best quarterback in the city that is a more of a dual threat. He can throw the ball. I think he threw for close to 1,600 yards last year, but he can also run the ball just as well. So, he presents a problem for defenses. So, that game is going to be, big here in town. I think Clarksville goes to Stewart's Creek. West Creek and Northwest play too. That's the other game here in town that'll feature 2 teams from Montgomery County playing against each other. And then I mentioned Portland is at Montgomery Central. And then Rossview, they play their Region 6 4A or Region 4 6A game against Wilson Central.
When you talk to athletes, how frustrated were they that they had to wait the first 2 weeks when other people were playing right away?
That was I asked them maybe what their lowest point was during this whole process, starting from the beginning of March, where a lot of the football players lost their spring football. They said to me, each one of them said to me that their lowest point was having to wait while other counties around them were practicing and were training. That was a school system thing. Obviously, the TSSAA kind of left it up to the individual school districts to make up their own kind of protocols about how they want to handle athletics in their own communities. And so the school system here in Clarksville decided that, they didn't want to push the envelope too early in June and possibly have setbacks with some positive COVID testing. So they decided to wait till after the dead period. And of course, coaches and players, they're chomping at the bit. They were disappointed with that, obviously, but all of that kind of factors into, part of the reason why Clarksville Montgomery County school system also pushed back delayed the start of the football season for a couple of weeks. The games were supposed to start on, the 21st of August here in Clarksville, but they pushed those first 2 weeks back because they didn't feel like those kids would have had enough time to prepare for a high school football game if they had started athletic activities after the dead period in July. So they wanted to give them a little bit of time. Yeah.
Chain reaction to everything.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, George, while I got you on the show, we're going to go over our top 10 games of the week. I know I kind of sprung you on these late. Game of the week is going to be Lebanon at Mount Juliet, a Wilson County rivalry game. You saw Lebanon week 1, I believe.
Yeah, they played Gallatin, and it wasn't the perfect conditions, obviously, for the first high school football game of the season. But both teams turned the ball over quite a bit, fumbled quite a bit. But Lebanon played well in the first half. I think Gallatin's, just their running game wore Lebanon down. But this is, obviously this is going to be a big, big region game for these 2 teams. Rossview plays in this region actually, so they'll play both teams this year. So I've seen Lebanon quite a bit. They're a physical team. Like I said, that first game against Gallatin was just turnover heavy because it was just a straight downpour. So, but Mount Juliet is Mount Juliet, and they've been good for a long time. And I'm going to put my money on that defense because that defense has just been incredible the past 3 or 4 years.
I like Mount Juliet too, and Trey Perry does a great job there. Has a strong senior class coming back. They got to stop the Shannon kid, right? At Lebanon, the running back. If they can stop him, DeQuante Shannon, maybe. Yeah,
that's him.
Exactly. I mean, that's who they need to stop, and I think they'll do that. I'm going to say 20-7, Mount Juliet over Lebanon.
Yeah, I'll go 20-10. I feel like if the weather is drier, I think the Shannon kid has they're going to be able to move the ball. The issue is going to be where I feel like Mount Juliet is strongest defensively in the red zone. They're very, very. It's difficult to score on them, but I feel like maybe they can get 10 points out of it. We'll see.
Next game, Brentwood Academy at McCallie. I have watched Brentwood Academy the last 2 weeks. They go on the road down to Chattanooga. And I believe they get Cody White back. Head coach Cody White has missed the first 2 games due to quarantine. His wife had COVID, so he had a quarantine for the first 2 weeks. He's back, I believe, on the sidelines. And you get this team is so different than a year ago, where they with Taylor Montiel throwing the football, and we were just talking. I was talking on the sidelines with our photographer Andrew Nels. You've got the BA quarterback Montiel, and you got Cade Granzel at Brentwood, and you got Drew Beam at Blackman. All 3 are SEC pitchers. They're all committed to SEC baseball programs, and they all got live arms. And Taylor can throw the football well, and he's got really. I mean, I think we maybe underrated them early, and I think I probably did this because their skill players, their receivers and running backs are still fairly young. Casey Calmus, the running back, Rocky Calmus's kid. He's one of the running backs, and he's a younger kid. He's about 170 pounds. They got some really decent receivers. They do have some, Amir Anor is a more experienced kid, and he's shown a little bit of a wiggle there in the open field. And they've got some younger talent there that's got some speed that a lot of us just don't really know because they're young. I like what I've seen out of that, and of course they're huge up front when you got the North Carolina commitment, Eli Sutton, and another Power 5 guy in Noah Josie up front. I mean, they're just huge up front, but you face McCallie, that's the defending state champions in Division II AAA. They lost the Hardy kid, both Hardy kids. The kid is now at Auburn, and then you've got their quarterback. So they're both gone, graduated. I think McCallie's going to be. They've only played 1 game, and I think that's going to be an issue. They've played Knoxville Webb. I think they beat them like 50-0. I think it was.
Yeah.
I think BA is better battle tested playing Lipscomb and playing Brentwood last week, beating both of those teams. I think that pays off this week. I really think BA goes to Chattanooga and win this. I still do think that, I've said all along that I think Baylor might be the best team in that league with what they have, but I think BA is getting much better. I'm going to say BA is going to win this game 27-21.
Okay. How do you feel about, the travel? It's probably not that big of a concern with high school. Maybe as it is in the higher levels of football, college, pro, but that is a little bit of a haul. Mm-hmm. But I tend to agree with you with what Brentwood Academy has coming back, considering that they've already got a couple of games under their belt. Although McCallie is very, very good, like you said, the defending state champs in their division. So, but I like Brentwood in this game as well. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say a little bit higher scoring. I'm gonna say 34-28.
You're going BA as well.
Yeah. Brentwood Academy.
Next game, BGA at Good Pasture. Tyler Turner has done a wonderful job, I think, at Good Pasture, kind of helping turn that program around. They're 2-0. They narrowly beat, I think, Nashville Christian last week. This is the biggest game they will play. It's the region opener, middle region opener with the Battleground Academy. BGA is coming off I think it was like a 12-8 win over Wilson Central. Great, test for them going into region play. Good Pasture has a lot better. BGA, I think, still has the nod there. I think BGA is probably third best team in that region, with behind maybe a CPA and a Lipscomb. I think Good Pasture is that team that's making progress, that just needs a little more experience, a few more athletes there to compete with some of the top echelon of Division II AA. And that's where CPA is right now. And I think Lipscomb's quickly emerging up there as well with what Coach Dilfer's done. So BGA, you got Xavier Shaw, a great player there. I like BGA win this game. I mean, I know they're a lot different this year. I think you're probably going to. I personally think we'll see a lot more ground game out of BGA. I think Jonas Rodriguez will want to see that more. I think you're going to see. I'm going to say 17 to. Let's go 17-9.
7-9, really?
9. We're gonna miss an extra point or something.
Extra point, maybe a safety or something.
Yeah, or something.
Maybe get a safety in there. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Like you said, BGA, with a little bit more talent, I'm gonna go BGA 24-14.
Tullahoma at Marshall County. I believe that's Region 4A, I believe. I think this is their region championship with Tullahoma at Marshall. I saw Tullahoma in week 1. Marshall County did not play week 1. They had a COVID issue. They did play last week. They beat Lincoln County, I believe, last week. Tullahoma is playing really good ball with the first-year starting quarterback Ryan Scott and really good running back athlete in Jacoby Thomas. But man, they got the Hammonds kid at quarterback at Marshall County, and you get John Estes, one of the top kickers in the state, maybe the best kicker in 4A, and boot a ball over the uprights on kickoffs. I mean, he's got a powerful leg, which is big. I think it'll be big for him. But in Tullahoma, I think Tullahoma has gotten a lot better. I think depth may be the biggest issue there. If Coach John Olive can keep them healthy, I think that's going to be very key. And if it is a non-rainy night with maybe some humidity, that might become an issue. I like Marshall County win this game because I think Marshall County is one of the maybe top 5 teams in 4A. I'm going to say Marshall County wins this game 28-14.
Okay, I thought you were going to go with Tullahoma for a minute.
Nah, I thought about it, but I think Marshall County wins it.
Yeah, I'll give the nod to Marshall County, mostly because of the kicker that they have here in Clarksville. There's most of these teams, oftentimes they don't even go for the extra point. They're going for 2-point conversions because the kicking game it just hasn't been there consistently here in the city. So I always like to watch good kickers kick. So Marshall County's, like you said, got a really good kicker. I'm gonna go Marshall County 21-17.
Cookeville at Riverdale. This is an interesting game, George. I think everyone will say Oakland's your number 1. Most will say Riverdale's probably your number 2. Or if you look at what Blackman's done the last couple of weeks, I think Cookeville is probably your 3 right now and maybe pushing for number 2. Jimmy Maynard does a great job there. They've got a heck of a quarterback in Stockton Owen. He's come back to play last year. He's a running quarterback. They will throw the ball some, but he is he's a stocky quarterback, well-built kid that can really take a bruising and can be more of a power runner there for them. And I think that's going to be needed because Riverdale's front 7 is as good as you're going to find. They got the Javon Nelson at defensive end, the Herring brothers there at linebacker. Their front 7 is very, very big, very physical. I think this is going to be a big test for them. A game is at Riverdale, and I think that's probably a big factor for why Riverdale will sneak out of this game with a 20-17 win over Cookeville. Remember, this is a Riverdale team that lost to CPA last week, had to come from behind Franklin. They haven't played their best ball. Coach Kreisky will have to try to figure out, work some bugs out if they want to beat Cookeville, but I think they win 20-17.
Okay. This is a region game, right?
Region game. I think this very well could determine second place.
Right. And I was going to say, I remember Cookeville from a few years ago when they played when Rossview had to go to Cookeville in the playoffs. Just how physically tough that team is. I think it's going to be interesting to see, how physical Cookeville can be against, like you said, Riverdale's front seven. That'll be a big test for them. But I'm gonna go with Riverdale as well. I'm gonna go 24-21 Riverdale.
Okay. All right. First 5 games have been picked. You're watching the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. We're going to speed up the process here, a little more rapid fire, starting with Watertown at Trousdale. I believe this is for that region title. Both teams very, very good. Trousdale loses lost the opener, I believe, to Friendship. Watertown lost last week to Nolensville, like 24-20. I like Trousdale. It's at Trousdale, and I think that's the deciding factor. I'm thinking 24-21.
Yeah, I like Trousdale too. Losing to Friendship Christian is no slouch. Friendship Christians have been a dominant Division II program, for a while now. But I'm gonna go Trousdale as well over Watertown. I'm gonna go 28-20.
Springfield at White House Heritage. These are 2 programs, George, that you know.
Yeah.
Region 6-4A or 5-4A?
It's region 5-4A.
Springfield. Region champion last year. I like Springfield. I know they're going the road. I just think their quarterback, is a little guy but can run, and he's not gonna throw the ball over the field, but he can run all over the place. They got the Gabe Kelly at DB. They didn't play last week. First week of this, I think he had 2 picks. So I'm gonna go Springfield wins this game, 21-14.
Okay, I'm gonna go. It is region 6-4A, by the way.
Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah, region 6-4A. I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring. I just think, Springfield, as good as that offense has been the past couple of years, I think they'll kind of continue to roll in that, direction. I'm going to go Springfield 35-21 over White House Heritage.
Pope John Paul II, 2-0. A couple big wins there for Pope John Paul. They travel to Briarcrest in a Division II AAA West region game. Briarcrest also playing really good ball. I think they're undefeated as well. Briarcrest is a lot different than a year ago with what they lose, with Amari Thomas graduating, Jabari Small graduating. I still like what Coach Stewart has done. They're going to have to figure out a way to slow down Antoine Roberts from JP2. He's going to Wisconsin. I think they're going to figure it out. That's a lot. We talked about road trips earlier. This is another long road trip clear to Memphis. I think Briarcrest wins this game in a close one, 21-20.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Pope John Paul. I do think it's gonna be close, but I'm gonna go with Pope John Paul 24-20.
Summit at Columbia. When you look at Shelbyville kind of struggling early on, Pages kind of struggled a little bit early. This game could be the region championship. I know it's early, but Summit, they lost Keaton Wade for much of the regular season with a foot injury, but Destin Wade has really played well. Over 200 yards passing last week. He only played the first half against Spring Hill. I think Summit wins this game. I think Columbia's defense is going to have a big task ahead of them. From what Joe Spears, who covers Maury County for us, he has said that Columbia defense is really solid. So I think this is going to be a big test for Summit. But I think Summit wins this game 28-17.
Okay. I think Summit definitely has the edge here. I'm gonna be similar with you and go Summit with the 21-14 win.
Last game, Ravenwood at Franklin. Ravenwood, of course, we just had Matt Daniels on the show earlier today. Ravenwood's 2-0. Franklin's 1-1, I believe. Ravenwood with kind of retooled some things after being hit with graduation losses. Trevor Andrews has done a great job at quarterback. Jake Brennan still great. Had a great game last week, 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. And Junior Colson, the 4-star linebacker going to Michigan, did a little bit of everything. I think he recovered at least 1 fumble, maybe 2. Returned a kickoff for a touchdown. Blocked a punt. Had like 11 tackles. I mean, he was all over against Blackman. I think he'll have another big game. Franklin showed off a little more of a passing attack last week. That'll be a good challenge for Ravenwood, but I think Ravenwood wins this game. A couple scores, I think 35-21.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Junior Colson kid is just he's amazing to watch play. For all those Ravenwood fans, they're kind of lucky to have a kid so talented that they can go every Friday night and watch him play. But I'm gonna go with Ravenwood. I think they're gonna be too much for Franklin to handle. I'm gonna go Ravenwood 42, Franklin 17.
Okay, folks, that's been our top 10 games of week 3. George Robinson, thank you so much for joining the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Again, this is your live high school football show, or this is your football show. I guess we're recording a little bit early. Appreciate you joining the show. And you know what, George? Hopefully you'll get your wish and you will not have rain, no murder hornets, no power outages. Let's just have one normal week of high school football, and then we can build off that next week.
Yes, please. That's all I ask. Just one fairly easy 2 hours of high school football on Friday night.
Folks, we'll see you next week. You've been watching the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans.